All right, welcome to our next episode here in Behind the Football Stripes with special guests. And we have a very special guest today, former NFL down judge, head linesman Ed Camp, a very recognizable and highly respected longtime official in the NFL. He spent 22 years in the NFL, worked under 7 referees. He worked the Super Bowl in 2019 between the Rams and the Patriots in Super Bowl 53 in Atlanta. He was also a 3-time Super Bowl alternate. Worked 2 conference championships, even just earlier this year in the AFC Championship between the Bengals and the Chiefs. 7 divisionals, 4 wild cards, the Pro Bowl, and now he's currently staying active working Eagles scrimmages. Actually, we'll get into that a little bit. But welcome to today's episode, Ed. Pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you very much, and you as well. Let's get started with where you're at right now. So you retired at the end of the 2021 football season, just earlier this year, and you actually ended your career as a Super Bowl alternate. That must have been quite a thrill. And how did your decision to retire at this time come about?
Well, 2 years ago, the league offered an enhanced severance package to anyone that would give them, like a heads up so they could prepare for, recruitment and retention, so to speak. So I gave them 2 years notice 3 years ago now. And I regretted it because one of those 2 years was the COVID year, which was like just totally crazy. We were not with our crews, and we were just we'd have teams 3 or 4 times, which is not the norm in the NFL. You don't want to see a team too many times, but because of travel restraints, we had to do that. But I wasn't able to get out of my contract with them. So, but I went out on my own terms, and that's what I always wanted to do because this is a tough business, and sometimes you don't get the chance to go out on your terms. And my terms were 2 years, and my last year included I was the COVID alternate in London, and then I worked the championship game. I was the alternate for the Super Bowl, and we had a lot of high profile games. That's based mainly on our crew and how good the crew worked as a cohesive unit. So I did go out on top. I didn't get fired. So that was not my ultimate goal, but you always have that in the back of your mind. I remember when I worked with Gerald Austin, who worked in the league for 27 years or whatever. I was privy to a conversation he had with someone in Indianapolis, and he says, you don't always go out on your own terms. I'll never forget that. And that was 2009. So I always said, well, if you can do that, try to do that. And when this opportunity came up 3 years ago, I took advantage of it. But again, I could still be working, but I'm happy I'm very happy where I am right now. I miss the guys.
Yeah, that is so rare, especially in the NFL with a lot of turnover and a lot of scrutiny over officials. The NFL never came back to you and asked you to do a few more years because you were so, really at the top of your game.
Yeah, I didn't pursue it. I'll never forget. I came home. My wife and I went out to dinner, and I came home and I had a phone call from one of the officials who also retired, and he said, "Congratulations on your retirement." And I said, "Well, I thought I was getting the union to work on that for me,
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at there was a memo out. Congratulations to the following 7 guys. He was one of them, and I just said, okay, that's okay. It's okay. I'm all right with that.
Right.
So I went out. I had one more regular season game. I worked at, it's a big game coming up in the next couple of weeks, or maybe it's this Sunday. I know Baltimore-Pittsburgh. I worked that as my last regular season game, and it was a good way to go out regular season. And then, of course, I went out as on the top with the championship game, which is another tough game. I think we went overtime in that one, and then they rewarded me with the Super Bowl alternate, which was a lot of fun.
So what was that like? Knowing you're about to retire and you're working the conference championship game, how do you as an official, we have a lot of amateur officials here and that, look to a lot of advice. How do you stay sharp in a game like that? It's your last one. I don't know if you knew at the time you were going to be a Super Bowl alternate, that you were going to get that, but how's that?
So listen, football is a strange game. I coached baseball. I officiated basketball, college basketball is actually on a lower level. I never made it to Division I. But football is a strange animal. Whether you work Pop Warner, high school, a JV game on a Monday, or you work, in college football or at my level at the NFL, football is once a week. And you don't have like college basketball guys are working 100 games, and they got to be sharp. I got to give them credit for these guys I see on TV every night
Yeah.
Football, whether if you work a Pop Warner game on a Friday night or Saturday night, it's their Super Bowl, and that's the way I always looked at it. I only have one on my resume, but I worked every game as if it was the Super Bowl, whether it was a Pop Warner game or I went back to working a little high school ball this year. I mean, I gave those guys my best effort because you could just see and feel the preparation that the coaches and the players and even the fans put into, coming to the game with their enthusiasm. So when I
Sure.
walked down that tunnel the last time in Kansas City, Jonah Monroe is my side judge, and we just looked. He goes, "Well, this is great, right?" I went, "Yeah." And you walk out, and you're at Kansas City, which is one of
Right.
the loudest stadiums in the league. It's not too hard to get pumped up for a game like that. But
Right.
whether I would have been there or I would have worked a high school game, like I worked at Mawa High School this year, my opening game. I walked down the town. The band's playing, the kids are excited. It's Friday Night Lights. It's important to them. So it didn't take much for me to get fired up to work that game. No, not at all.
That's awesome. And how you mentioned you didn't know you were going to be working the Super Bowl as an alternate at that time. How did that call come through?
That was, I take that back. I did know. So I
Okay.
found out on the Monday before, yeah, the Monday before this championship game, I got a call from Bill Vinovich. He was the referee on the game. And then on Tuesday, I got a call from Ron Torbert, who was Super Bowl uh, the Super Bowl referee.
Right.
They make the referees call now. So like back to back days, I was on an emotional high. It was great. It was a great 2 days, And the alternate in the Super Bowl, I mean, you got to be ready. You have to be, I had to participate in all the pregame and all the preparation that goes into that. But it's a fun deal. And I was in LA. It was pretty good, And I
Right.
have relatives in Southern California, so I stayed over a couple of days after. But yeah, it was a pretty good deal.
That's interesting. I mean, I don't think a lot of people know. This must be new that the referee of the game is the one calling you, letting you know you got the assignment. People would think that either Walt Anderson or their
Yeah,
predecessors would have been.
when I got the Super Bowl in 2018 season, 2019 was the game. Al Riveron called me. He was in charge at the time. He was the senior vice president of officiating. So he called, and most of the time they make it ceremoniously. They do it ceremonially. I remember one year, two of the Pagnellis, Carl and I can't remember. There's three
Right.
Pagnellis in the NFL, but their father was a big time official at one time and was a supervisor of the MAC conference in the Midwest. And Mike Pereira, I believe, it was Mike Pereira because Mike would do something like this. That's how classy he is. Mike got a conference call together and had the father and the two Pagnellis together, and he announced it that way.
Yeah.
So with the dad there, and I believe it was the first Super Bowl for those two guys. Well, they've had multiple ones anyway, but
Yeah.
that's normally the way they do it. Maybe you know what. What maybe I'm mistaken here. I probably got called by the referee because I was only an alternate. That's what it was. I'm sure.
Oh,
I'm sure.
okay.
Yeah, I think Walt calls the actual officials themselves, the on-field officials that are working the game. Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's what happened.
Gotcha.
But Ron did call me. I didn't get called by, you know, Ron called me. I guess he had to make all the phone calls to replay and all the alternates. Yeah.
Awesome. And so we'll get back into earlier part of your career, but you mentioned now that you're trying to stay active. You're doing high school football. I think even in an interview I heard you say you're also doing refereeing in high school,
Yes.
and you said you're also doing some work for the Eagles now. Talk a
Yep.
little bit about that and how that came about.
Okay, so it's funny because we can tie it right in. This is a good feed. So I'm in LA after the game. We had a party, post game party at the Super Bowl, and my phone rings at 6:05 a.m. California time. All right, and it's the assistant general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles, who I knew. We had come across each other as uh, when we do training camp visitations in the NFL. They send you out to training camps when they're out there, and you stay a couple of days, and you work with them, you look at film with them.
Right.
It's a really good cooperative effort to help them out and get them to know us a little bit better. And I had either two or three trips to Philadelphia. And so I met John Ferrari, who's the assistant general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. And he called me. He had my number because, we were talking. He would have my number because we were chatting about over the past years, like what time we had to be at practice and what they want to talk about. And can you come back later on and look at video with us? So I wasn't on a personal basis with them, but I was on a professional basis with them. So he calls me at 6:05 a.m. And I'm like, well, dude, we were up a little late last night. What can I do for you? He said, congratulations on a great career. Are you ready to come to work for us? And I said, well, let's talk. He goes, okay. He had some preparations to do for the draft and a lot of the offseason stuff that they do. He'll get back to me. And I forgot whether it was late February or March that he called and he said, I'd like you to become a consultant for us. And I said, okay. Now I knew that Robin DiLorenzo, who has my number,
Right.
she worked for them prior. Okay. And she's a rookie now in the NFL.
Yep.
She's a rookie down judge. So she worked for them. And Ron Marinucci, who had a great career, 19 years in the NFL. He lives down in New Jersey, but in the Philadelphia. He's another. He works for the Eagles, and then Raymond Brown is a field judge in the Big Ten, and he's in the officiating development program for the NFL. So the three of us work the practices, and in the NFL, they don't hit too hard during practice, injuries
Right.
are a bug. So
Yep.
John said, you'll work our practices. We'll have you work in a few practices during the training camp, but normally it's 1 day a week whenever we're going with specific situations or whenever we go 11 on 11, and they don't tackle or anything like that. So I'm not officiating that, but
Right.
I help them out with scenarios, so they build the whole practice is scripted. So normally I'll go down there on a Thursday. If they're playing a traditional Sunday 1 o'clock game, I go down on Thursday, and I get there a little bit early, and I watch some plays of interest with John, and then practice is usually about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and Ron and I work the line of scrimmage, and Raymond works deep, and John Ferrari has the script, and he works the referee position. So they create. I don't make a play dead, or I might call an incomplete pass, or I might. But what they're looking for, RPO is a big deal, so I have to help them with the legal man downfield.
Right.
They're not making enough contact to hold. I have had a couple of defensive pass interference, but I throw the flag. And I throw the flag, and John has the script, and he will write it up, and then he'll go back and look at it, and then show it to the team. And I will tell you this: in the last 3 weeks, knock on wood, we have not had a line of scrimmage foul. That means false start,
Yep.
illegal formation, or defense offside or neutral zone infraction in 3 weeks. Now, maybe I'm not putting the ball in the end zone, and I'm not keeping the ball out of the end
Right.
zone.
Right.
But I feel I'm helping him out, and I know the coaches have really been really, really nice to me. Coach Sirianni gives me a fist pound every week. We appreciate what you do for us. You're really helping us out. So I think it's a leg up. I think the Eagles have a leg up in preparation. The players ask me tons of questions. I warn them when I think they're doing something that's marginal, and I flag them. Like yesterday, I must have thrown about 11 flags yesterday.
Wow.
So we lost Lane Johnson, and we have a new kid playing tackle now, and he was too far back, and they're in the NFL they're cognizant that is a big advantage if you're too deep, if the tackles are too deep. So I nailed him about 4 times, and I probably could have nailed him about 4 more times. So he's got to be ready this week. We have the Saints
Right.
this week. Yep.
Do you think? I mean, obviously, it's working out well for the Eagles this year. Do you think this is something that will continue, and even in the discussion of full-time officials in the NFL being more present at these camps or these weekly practices?
You have to be careful in that you can't have a friendly relationship as a regular official. I was a full-time official, and we did not go to training camps during the season. During the
Right.
training camp, the whole crews will go in there. And you probably know this.
Right.
That teams are having joint practices. So what they want is like a whole crew of officials to come. That's been the new thing the last 5 or 6 years, that a whole crew would go in. And that's one of the reasons why I got with Philadelphia. My whole crew had Philadelphia and New England a couple of years ago. So we went in and we worked their practices, joint practices. And then we stayed over, and then they played on Friday night. They played a game on Friday night. So we worked that game, and there was a kind of a familiarity, and there was a conversation going on. It's not adversarial at all. It's really educational. So, but I don't know. I asked John that because I'm really involved. I mean, I have their software here at my house where I can get into their, I have to sign a consent letter and release form and everything, and I wouldn't, share any of that information with them. I don't
Right.
look at it other than I can get the NFL video that I was locked out of once I left the league.
Right.
So I'm privy to the software that has the video platform for the league, video.
Yeah.
So I have that, I have all that information. And if I want, I could look at, I mean, the league puts all this stuff together. They do scouting reports on each crew, and so
Right.
John puts together on Monday afternoon, they'll say, okay, this week we have Jerome Boger's crew. So, okay, they're ranked wherever out of 17 crews, they're ranked wherever in holding, and Jerome's ranked number 5. I don't know. I'm just, this is off the top of my head. Jerome, has a lot of roughing the passer penalties. You got to be careful with stuff like that. And then they'll look at the line of scrimmage guys and say, well, these guys throw a lot of, so make sure you're lined up right. So it's like, like you scout your opponent that you're playing. And I've always said this about officiating. We're the third team out there.
Right.
Exactly. So they want to scout us, and it's not derogatory in any manner, but, I think it's useful, that they know that.
And as officials, though, don't you get scouting packages for the teams you're about to work? And aren't
Yes,
you
we
kind
do.
of
We have
responsible?
the league office will give you statistical information that you can get to, and that's privy to everybody. Okay, that same information is on the scouting report of the officials. We can look at, let's say you have the Rams coming up this week, and you see that there's a guy that has 9 holds on there. If he's a tackle and you're an umpire or a referee, or even my position, you need to be aware that there's a tendency here. We're not getting out of the van or off the plane and saying I'm nailing 73 on whatever team, for holding. But you need to, I mean, statistics are statistics. You have to be, you can't ignore them. The guys that play a little bit on the edge, they might have a couple more UNRs, unnecessary roughness fouls.
Right.
So you just want to know that. And I don't get out, I wouldn't go on the walk around before the game and say, you better not hit anybody in the head today. I'd never do that. I mean, none of us do that,
Right.
but you need to just be aware that there are guys that play a little bit tighter, and I mean, we know who they are.
A lot of people, like you said, think that the officials just get off the plane and whatever their mood is that day. But talk a little bit about, especially in the NFL, where you're often battling or balancing rather a second career, real full-time job, and you're putting dozens of hours a week into preparation for the game. I mean, how is that for you, and how is that for other officials? I mean, they take it very seriously and they put a lot of effort into it. What's the normal week look like?
So I taught physical education in New York City for 32 years. Okay, which is a pretty damn good job to have if you have to be prepared for the NFL. I wasn't killing myself at work,
Right.
But yeah, so a normal work week would start with let's start with Saturday. Okay, I was talking to somebody about this last night. So like Saturday for a normal Sunday game. Friday night or Thursday coming out, you would look at the weather, of course, especially this time of year. And you got to get your uniform together and watch the travel. You watch your travel plans, and then I would leave on Saturday morning. I live in the New Jersey, New York area, so I was very lucky in that Newark Airport has lots of flights, and they're a hub for United, so I could get to most places pretty easily with one flight. So that wasn't too bad. And then we would, the tough part, my last couple of years was I was with Sean Hockley, who lives on the West Coast. So if he came east, we didn't have a meeting till 5 or 6 o'clock at night. We were ordering dinner and still looking at films and preparing for the game. If we went west, it was a little different for me. I would get there at noon or 1 o'clock. But whatever time you get there, and we were from all over. We had guys from Texas and Mississippi and Florida. 2 from Florida and Indiana, and myself, and Sean lives in Newport Beach, California. So those logistics have to be considered when you're getting together with your pregame. But we would do about a 3-hour pregame on a Saturday, looking at scouting plays. He would assign during the week. Myself or Tom Hill would look at a particular one of the opponents that were playing, and we would look at their tendencies and whatever statistics we could get on them. And other guys would look too. One of our guys was a former linebacker, so he knew exactly like what to look for as far as football was talking about. Would be talking. And then we had a test. We had not a closed book test, but we did our test. It was 20 questions, 10 on regular and 10 on replay. And we had our replay guys with us. You stay together as a crew. It's a 7-person crew with the two replay guys travel with you. So they would. we would go up. There was training tapes put out every week, positional training tapes, and then there was the league-wide training tape. The positional training tapes would be something like line of scrimmage. I would look at that on Thursday when that came out. But on Saturday, we would look at the generic across the league training tape for the on-field officials as well as the replay training tape. And then we would look at our game from the previous week, and we would already have the grades done already. I'll get to that in a second. And then Sunday, you just get up and go to the game. And then there's a lot of administrative things to do that we all had to do. Of course, I'm the down judge, so I got to go talk to the chain crew, and the deep guys that are involved with the play clock and the game clock would talk to the clock operators. And the referee is, he's actually the director of a TV show. So he's talking to the TV people about, TV timeouts and when they want to take them, and will there be an extra one at the 2-minute warning if we've met all. So there's a lot of administrative things. And then, we have guys supervising the guys that are fixing up the game balls for us. So, there's no pregame like you would normally consider. All the football stuff is done Saturday or during the week. And then Sunday is all administrative. We're testing microphones and they're checking where the clocks are and all that type of thing. So that, and then you just go out and work the game. That's it. And then you're out of there right away. I mean, bang, as soon as it's over. I've walked out of plenty of buses and never said goodbye because we just got to get to the plane and get home.
Right.
And I would come home, and then we have, we on the field, you'll see guys writing stuff down. We're taking notes. Not only writing our fouls down, but we're taking notes on plays we might have passed on. And then I would come home on Sunday night. My wife would make me a dinner, depending on what time it was, but she was great with doing that. And then I would do my foul report right there. We have a software called OES, Officials Evaluating System, and we had to put our fouls in there. And then not only put your fouls in, but if I warned a player, and by the way, the OES already has the whole game description there. So when I go look at a play and I'm going, I think I warned Pittsburgh at 10:37 of the fourth quarter about illegal formation. Somewhere in there near that is that play description. So I have a box, a drop down box where I could just put that I warned them.
Yeah.
And then you submit, and then I would relax. And on Monday, I didn't do too much because it's pretty stressful working Saturday and Sunday like that.
Sure.
On Monday, I have a couple of other jobs. I still maintain them. I would grade film for the SEC or the Centennial Conference. And after, I get up a little bit late. I wasn't doing this when I was teaching school, believe me. Right. But once I retired, I needed something else to do. So
sure.
I love teaching officials. I loved helping people out. Somebody told me a long time ago, don't forget to give back. And I don't think I ever have forgotten that. So I love to give back at any level as much as I can. So I grade film. I first started with Division III, and I would grade a Division III game. It takes me about 2.5, 3 hours. I'm a bad typer, so sometimes it takes me 3.5 hours. And I would submit that. And Monday was kind of quiet in the NFL. Watch the Monday night game as much as I can. I always joke that the only time I stayed up for a whole Monday night game is when I was working one, because after all that travel, right. I'm a little bit tired. And sometimes people say to me, well, I'm not sure if you stayed up there when you were working that Monday night game either. I watched the and then Tuesday, you get a preliminary report from the grader. So they have, numerous graders or evaluators, or now they're calling them coaches. And that's a confusing term for the layman. So I'll just call them evaluators. Right. So the evaluator would, he would start to put in preliminary comments to what I put in on Sunday night when I got home. Right. And you get a feel for what's going on. And then we might have a little, I might talk to the referee, and he will have already spoken to the grader about some plays that are of interest. Let's just say that, So some of them are real good plays, and some of them could be, downgrades. It's a very, we're scrutinized. That's what I don't think the layman knows that we are scrutinized. It's not, I never worried about coaches yelling at me on the sideline. I was worried about Tuesday and Wednesday, what someone who's, right. completely neutral and is unbiased has to say about my performance, right. And, sometimes I got defended, sometimes I got downgraded, and that goes with the territory. I don't miss that, but, right. So that's Tuesday. Then Wednesday, they used to have a collaboration with all the graders and evaluators. They don't think they do that anymore. I think they mainly just talk to the referee, and about what they're going to do, and then they submit a final. But let me back up to Sunday night or Monday. One thing we always did on with Sean Hockley, and I love this. I think more crews should do this, and I encourage anybody that's listening to do this too. We did a self-evaluation. So we actually downgraded ourselves or upgraded ourselves,
Yep.
and I always said this, that sometimes you can fool the office, and that's been very rare of late. Those guys know what they're doing, and sometimes you can even fool your crew, but you can't fool yourself.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know when you kicked one in the sand,
Yeah.
and all three of those have come to fruition now, where I don't think they miss much in the office, because they're looking at, they have a whole bunch of people looking at stuff, and they're good. They're really good at what they do, and they look at so much video. And your crew, you got to be a good crew guy, and you have to be honest with each other. So when we would do that self evaluation, I would tell my opposite wing guy, I think that's an illegal formation, and he would tell me the same thing.
Right.
Or you would say, hey, that's a good call, and you share. And I think that builds your crew. Okay. You're
Yeah.
not patting each other on the back, which when I was a young college official, we didn't have as much video available then. This is 35 years ago.
Right.
So, and even when I was in high school Friday night, I work off a high school game on Friday night. I go, all right, let's go out for a couple of pizzas and beers. And, God, weren't we great tonight? We didn't
Right.
look at video like that.
Right.
There was not that self-evaluation. You just said, hey, weren't we damn good tonight? Boy, I'll tell you, we didn't get yelled at, unless you're on the guy on the other sideline who lost 40-0, So the more we have tools like DV Sport and Huddle video, I encourage anyone that sees this on any level to take advantage of that and do a self-evaluation and a crew evaluation.
Yeah.
So that was Tuesday and Wednesday, okay. And Wednesday the final grades come out, and you're either kicking the dog or you're going out for steak, depending on the grades, and that's
Right.
important, And then by Wednesday night you got to move on. You owe
Right.
those teams that you have coming up. You can't be looking behind you. Some guys do, but you owe the next two opponents. You're
That's right.
saying focus. I got hit one time with a devastating downgrade. I had. San Diego, the Chargers at the time, were playing in Baltimore, and game was coming down to the wire, and I lost focus for a second. And I don't know why I did this, but I looked at the play clock, and that's not my job on the line of scrimmage. I
Right.
shouldn't
Of
look.
course. Yeah.
And so San Diego had no timeouts left, and they took a snap, and they got sacked, but we had a face mask penalty on the play. Okay. So in the NFL, a face mask penalty on a sack, you go back to the line of scrimmage and you enforce 15. It's an automatic first down. And this is the last play of the game. The time ran out, and they kicked the game-winning field goal on that. Jogged off the field. I thought we had a pretty good game. Nobody, I don't go by that. Don't do this.
Right.
Not just because they don't say something. Remember that
Doesn't mean
self-evaluation. Just
right.
because they don't say anything doesn't. But I felt pretty good about the game. And I was teaching school then, and I got a text message like, I don't know, about noontime on Monday from my son, and he said, "Hey, what happened? What happened in Baltimore on that last play of the game?" I went, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Well, they're saying there's a false start on the play." And I went, "What?" So I called up my referee and I said, "Is there something going on?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "What?" He goes, the tackle twitched a little bit." And I went, "What?" Yeah, the tackle moved a little bit right before the snap. We should have probably, we should have had a full set. He was a very nice man.
Yeah.
So I get away from phys ed class and I open up my computer and I look at the play, and sure enough, the tackle just opened up a little bit right before the snap. And, I'll school some people watching this. That's with San Diego out of timeouts, that's a 10-second run off. The game should have
Right.
been over.
Mm.
So I get at the time what they called a catastrophic downgrade. Okay.
Mm.
And I did get a postseason game, but that was like I cost the Baltimore Ravens a game. Okay, that game should have been over. But you know what I did? I did something. Stay in your lane. Why did I look at the play clock? I don't know why I looked at the play clock. I never look at the play clock. I got out of my lane. Okay, I didn't do something. I lost the basics. What am I supposed to be looking for there? Exactly what happened. Movement,
Right.
somebody jumping in the neutral zone from the from the defense, the center messing with the football, some, line of scrimmage, pre-snap foul, and I didn't get it. That's my job. I got one job. And for some reason I felt the clock was winding down. And I look back, that's not my job. The back judge is staring right at the play clock.
Right.
So I
Right.
missed this one. All right. So I get the grade and the grader calls me up apologetic. I had worked with the guy a few times, and um, he says, "Man, I'm sorry, I got to do this to you." I said, "John, you have your job to do, and I have my job to do. You do your job, and I didn't do my job. So whatever comes down the road, because I didn't do my job, I'm willing to accept it."
Right.
So he said, "Okay, I appreciate that. I respect you. I like you as a person." I said, "Hey, you have your job to do. Whatever they tell you to grade this as, you grade that. I'm telling you right now, I missed it. My comment, you can comment back on. Good. I absolutely missed this. I mean, there's no excuses. You can't be making excuses.
Right.
You got to believe your lying eyes.
Right.
So Thursday, now we put this behind, and I got to put it behind, and I think I had Seattle and San Francisco that week. So I'm driving home from school, and I get a phone call from Dean Blandino. "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "I'm good." He goes, "Are you okay?" And I went, "Dean, I'm going to tell you what I told John Schleier. Okay, I missed it. You guys got to do what you got to do. And by the way, it's Thursday. I'm preparing for Seattle and San Francisco. I can't worry about how I screwed up last week in Baltimore. You got to get past that, because if you don't, you're going to
Right.
screw up in Seattle and San Francisco."
Right.
So, if I
Exactly.
can offer any advice to anybody listening, you got to move on. We make mistakes. It happens. I made it in the biggest theater, and I had to move on. I had to talk to myself. Believe me, it's easy to say that now, sitting here 5 years later, whatever it is, but you have to do that. You got to move on, and you got to do that during the game too. If you think you kicked one, you can't worry about, because you'll kick five more during the game if you do that.
Yeah, that's a couple of things you mentioned there that were very interesting. You're getting feedback from some of your peers, and throughout your career, I mean, you've worked with, I think, 7 or 8 different referees, a couple of which I think were on crews with you. I think Jerome Boger and Al Riveron were on crews with you.
Right.
And then Al Riveron not only became a referee, your crew chief, but he also became a supervisor for you.
Right.
Right. So there's this, mix of folks. I don't know if a lot of people know and understand what the relationship is like between the supervisors, front office, and the officials. You talked about the grading process being pretty stringent. How is it like to work with somebody as a peer, right, on the same sideline, and then have them become your boss eventually?
You just have to. It's like, when I was in education, I taught phys ed with people that became principals, and you just have to accept that. It's like, whatever job you have peers, and some peers get promoted and you stayed there, or you get promoted. It's that works both ways.
Right.
But we both have to realize what our role is. And if I were to become a supervisor, I would just have to say, "Hey, look, I'm a supervisor now, and I have my job to do as a supervisor. I'm not officiating anymore." And as an official, not everybody did that. It can be at times adversarial, because they have to tell you when you're wrong.
Right.
And again, you go back to my statement earlier, like, when you screwed one up, and you just have to admit it and move on. There are some guys that don't do that. They go into a shell, and they don't, they think it's personal, and
Right.
don't take it personal. Okay, those guys have a job to do. They have to be accountable to the commissioner and to the teams and the general managers. Al Riveron had, every time he had a screw up, he had 3 people calling him. He had the head coach, the general manager, and the owner. They had him on speed dial, and that's in
Right.
that job.
Of course.
So I realize that, and those guys actually protect you. If you think about it, I don't have, if I screwed something up, the owner of the Giants was not going to call me up. They would call the league up, and the league's the buffer then. So those guys take bullets for you too. We're out there on Sunday taking them, but I never looked at it that way, and that's the way you got to look at it. Are there politics? Yeah, there's politics. Did I like every grader? Did I like every grade? The answer is no, but I always felt that I owed the team my best effort moving forward, whoever I had the next week.
Right.
Hey, there were Tuesdays I was upset. My wife even said, "I bet you don't miss Tuesdays anymore." No, I said, "I don't miss Tuesdays and Wednesdays anymore." But
Right.
but that's part of it. That makes you stronger. It's not going to kill you, but it'll make you stronger.
So right now, I mean, we're right towards the end of the football season, National Football League, and what are officials really doing this time of year? I mean, you just talked about a body of work all year long, all the scrutiny you put into yourselves and feedback, and now you're really looking for one of those really few prime, postseason assignments. Does your mindset? I mean, I understand you want to stick to your technique, and like you said, next game is always important. But there's got to be some part of your mind that's like, man, I don't want to mess this one up. My last shot to get this, body of work, or having just come off a game where maybe in week 16 where you got a downgrade or something. How do you pull yourself together? And does the league value that? Meaning saying, yeah, this guy had one issue, but next week he turned it around. He's really someone we want in the postseason.
You said something important, which is body of work. So you can have, as I had that year that I had that catastrophic incident in Baltimore, I actually worked a playoff game that year. So I mean, you got to get off it. But at this time of year, there's sweaty palms out there, because you want to. I was telling a guy last night, you always want to be invited back, and probably the closest way to get, or the surest way of getting invited back, is to get a postseason assignment, some way, shape, or form, alternate or on field. So yeah, we're at that point where that's a concern. But again, that can't be your sole concern. Well, I don't like to say big games, because if you say
Right.
big games, just screw up a little one and see how little that one is.
Right.
Yeah, it's in the back. I'd be lying if I told you it's not on the back. How am I doing? What am I doing? I will tell you this: the year I worked the Super Bowl, I had no idea where I was. I knew I had some big calls. I was with Sean Hockley as a rookie referee. I had downgrades. I
Yeah.
had better years actually. And then didn't get the Super Bowl. So it's hard to say, but there's a value system that they kind of hold, and they look at. There's numerical grades, and there's a tally of that, and that's part of your body of work. But then there's more. I love that term, body of work. There's some things that you bring to the game, that are not measurable.
Right.
Subjectively. He's a leader. He makes calls at the big time.
Yeah.
Al told me when I got the Super Bowl, he said, you might have missed a false start here or there, but I know at crunch time you'll be there. And for those young guys and girls that are listening here, that's the thing. You
Yeah.
don't lose focus. At crunch time, they're all big calls. But you got to, I try to talk to myself, I'd say, okay, let's go. One more play,
Right.
right here, right here, right now, right here, right now, and if you do that, you'll be a little bit more successful.
Was it so on two other dimensions? Was it hard to navigate? I mean, you worked 22 years, I think maybe four or five different supervisors from Pereira all the way up. And you worked on multiple different referees. Those are two dimensions that are also playing at your ability to be successful too. Did either of those significantly help or work against your ability to do your best, or feel like just couldn't get in a good groove or otherwise?
Yeah. So what I've always told young officials is you got to have a strong base. So you need good training in high school and good training in college, and I got both of those. And that helped me form a base, a base that I could always fall back on. And anytime in my 40 years of doing this that I abandoned those basics, I got myself in trouble.
Yeah.
I never had a year where I, was on notice or probation or anything like that. I always was okay. Some years I was really good, and some years I was, okay. I'm not getting fired.
Right. Right.
And I had a year that was kind of tough, and I talked to, I said, I was working for the Big East at the time as a line of scrimmage trainer, and Terry McCauley, for NBC, 3 Super Bowls. He says, "How's it going?" I go, "I don't know. I can't figure out what's going on." Now I didn't stink, but
Yeah.
I was struggling a little bit. And he said, "Just stick to the basics," which I've always said. And I said, "Well, here's something I'm thinking." I hear him say this to me, and I said, "I've always said that." And he's telling, Terry, I'm looking for the formula. He goes, just go back to the basics. So when you mention 5 different supervisors or 7 different referees, it all starts with what I just told you. You got to have the basics, and they all shared that in common. Every referee wanted you to be strong in your basic duties. The office wanted you to do the basic things, stay in shape, read the rule, understand our philosophy, do your video work. So, with the changing of the guards, either on the field with me or with, supervisors. Yeah. Are there differences? Yeah, there's differences. There's, on the field with a brand new referee, he's going to want to do some things a little different. He's going to want to do things
Right.
his way. Sometimes they're dogmatic. Sometimes they're flexible. Same thing with supervisors. You get to feel. I was always good with that. I always wanted to please my boss. I wasn't a butt kisser, but
Right.
I always wanted to say, well, what exactly is he looking for? What is exactly?
Right.
But it always went back that they never deviated from the basics.
Right.
I just rolled with them. I put the camo on and let's roll.
The bottom line, no excuses, even at that level.
Oh, you can't get nah.
Right.
Even last year I had a Thursday night game, and it was ironically last night was in Tennessee, and I could have sworn there was a face mask on the play, and I threw it, and it was against Tennessee. I was on the San Francisco sideline, so of course I got no heat because San Francisco thought it was the greatest call on God's green earth, and I
Right.
missed it, and the grade came out. No, I take it back. I go home, I write up the report, and I obviously I saw the play. We would review the video, on the plane or whatever. And I said, "Oh my God, it's not even there." So when I filled out my foul report, of course, I had to write down face mask major FMM,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote down, "This is not a foul." Bang, sent it in. 22 years. I can't lie to them,
Right.
you just had to admit it. And once I got out and I spoke, and these guys are my friends, I'm acquaintances for a long time. And I say these guys, I mean the evaluators.
Yeah.
They said, we always appreciated that about you. You didn't try to alibi your way out of it. And I said, well, I was trying to tell that to young guys all the time. Guys
Right.
write these long paragraphs, and look, halfway down to the middle of it, they know you are lying. Not
Right.
lying. You're trying to
Right.
alibi your way out of it. No, we're not lying. But I just said, hey, let's make this one quick sentence. I missed this. Period. Move on. And I think they appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah, and like you said, the intangibles that goes into your grade, and even amateur officials, I'm sure they're seeing that as well as they move through their career.
Yeah.
You talked about, so one other thing, because I think this is really useful for some of our listeners. The first 5 years of your career, I think you worked with Tom White, same basically the same construct of the crew. And I know at the time, I think it was whether it was Pereira or not, they were trying to keep crews relatively similar year over year versus throughout other parts of your career and other supervisors where they would mix them up every year, right? Just kind of toss up the bag of officials and see where they landed. Which was it either model better for you personally, or were there benefits to either one?
Well, when you're a rookie, it's very, very important to be with a patient referee and have, for instance, in my position, I had a good side judge, and I had a good line of scrimmage with me my first couple of years. And then I'd say my second year, I got a playoff game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you're ineligible your first year. So I got a playoff game my second year, and I got stronger. And I think the league trusted me a little bit more. And like in my third year, I think in my third or fourth year, I had a rookie next to me. That told me something.
Right.
I'm a third year guy and I got a rookie.
Right.
So the makeup of the crew is critical, and the referee, who's got to have a lot of patience with you. And Tom White was a really, really patient, and he took me under his wing and just helped me with the rules, and would call me late at night and call me at dinner. I'd be moving my kids' math homework over so I could talk to Tom White. And he would do it. He was the first to do his own self-evaluation. He was really tough. He was way tougher than the league at the time.
Wow.
So I got a good start with him. And then the referee in the NFL, those guys are rock stars.
Yeah.
They have to manage a crew. And I'll never forget, I was with Jerome as a rookie and Al as a rookie. That's right. Jerome was surrounded by good guys. Okay. Yeah. Strong officials, and blossomed that way. First of all, he was the line judge across from us, and then he took over the crew. I went from Tom
Right.
White to Jerome. Tom retired, and Jerome moved from line judge to referee, and they kept basically all of us intact.
Right.
And they solidified him with, and Jerome's in 19, whatever it is, 18, 19 years.
Right.
But when you're a rookie referee, you need to have a strong umpire next to you.
Right.
More so now because they've expanded the role of the umpire, to calling roughing the passer and stuff like that. So, but over the years, the referee has to have the ability to walk down that tunnel and get a cohesive unit, and that takes a lot. That's a lot of work during the week. That's a lot of work off the field. You got things like what do you do if you're a rookie referee or a newer referee and you have a veteran that's struggling? You have to somehow bring that veteran in there. I
Right.
mean, we all know if you have a rookie, I've worked with tons of rookies. I mean, you have a rookie, you just got to keep your eye on.
Yeah.
I hate to say rookie. I don't like that term. First year official.
For sure. Official.
So if you have a first year official, I gotta keep my eye out for him. I gotta see what's going on. I made a mistake one time over here in at the Meadowlands. I had a fill in first year official, and the Giants were struggling a little bit, and we had a terrible day. It was like 35 degrees and raining, and it was Tennessee, and the Giants were playing poorly, and we had a tough call on the sideline. And this has got to be 3 years ago. So I'm 19 years, 18 years, whatever the hell it is. And I let the rookie go down and talk to the Giants coach. And I just closed my eyes and cringed. And they lit him up like a firecracker. And I said, how did I let that happen? And he didn't know what to say. I blame myself, but it should have never got that way. And
Right.
the coach was questioning him about a call. And the kid responded with, "Are you questioning my integrity?" Every friggin' person on that sideline lit him up like, who are you? And I had to go down there. I sent him out of there, and I had to talk to the coach. And I said, okay, this is all on me. Okay, I should have never let him come back. But those are the things you have to do when you have a rookie on your crew. And when you're a rookie, he probably should have known not to never go over and talk to a coach alone. But
Right.
But I let him go and I let him hang, and I feel bad for. To this day, I still apologize to him.
Yeah. Well, that shows your character at least too. You really
Well,
wasn't gonna
yeah,
let
but
them.
I'm so man. Again, what did I do? I abandoned the. That's a
Right.
basic. You never. I don't care if you're working a high school game. You never go over because they'll quote you, and that's not what I said. Well, wait a minute. Yes, that is what you say. Now it's he said, she said. Hold it.
Right.
Not when there's another guy there, or I would stop. I would have never let him got to the integrity part. I mean, he didn't curse at him or anything like that, but
Right.
they let him have it a little bit after that,
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You mentioned working with Tom White early in your career, and in 2003 there was a public incident where I think it was the Seahawks and Ravens in Baltimore, where I know the referee and maybe rest of the crew was fined for not resetting the play clock, which was turned to be a game impacting call. Mm-hmm. And you had just thrown a flag for illegal shift right before that. Can you talk about that scenario? I mean, this is your third or fourth year in the career in your career and all that.
That's a great question to tie in our last topic. So the scenario was this: in the NFL, on certain plays, the kick plays, they call heavy package where they need extra linemen to block. You are allowed to come in and be number 50 to 79 if you report in your eligible position, but you have to report.
Yeah.
Okay. So Seattle was on the sideline opposite me, and I was on the Baltimore sideline. And so Seattle ran a heavy package in with, let's say, number 67 as he's going to be the left end on my side. Okay. And he must have ran by Tom White, and he gave the sign is like rubbing both hands down your chest. Okay. That I'm reporting. And then I don't recall back in 2003 if we announced that or not. I think we did. I think we didn't announce it. They simply just mimicked that sign.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And then they pointed to him, and the defense then knew. I mean, nobody does that as a hideout play or anything like that. They all know, it's the heavy package. Okay. So there's an extra blocker, and that's what they're going to use. Okay. I mean, occasionally they can send that guy out for a pass or something like that. So Tom White was opposite me on the nearer the Seattle sideline, and the guy must have just ran by Tom and did that, and I didn't see that. So I'm I have the line of scrimmage, and at the end of the line, this is different than college and high school. If number 68 is on the end of the line, that's an illegal formation if he didn't report. 67, whatever the hell he was.
Yeah.
And so I flagged the play for an illegal formation, correct.
Right.
And I jogged in and I said, I got 67 on the end of the line. And Tommy says to me, well, he reported. So I said, oh, okay, I'll just pick the flag up, put it in my pocket, pick the flag up, made the announcement. Now the question is, where does the play clock go to?
Right.
And I didn't know. Shit. And this is that third year. Yeah, it would be my third year, fourth year, whatever. And I had Joe LaRue, rookie, with me. And Joe is one of the best rules guys I ever had. Joe jogs in and says to Tom, you got to put the play clock at whatever. And Tom said, no, I remember a memo. And I mean, these are the intricacies.
Right.
So we stuck with it. Okay. And we were wrong. And Baltimore did not have to burn a timeout, which they should have had to do. And the play clock should have been set at whatever. You're absolutely correct on that. I don't remember. I remember what happened, what led up to it. I don't remember exactly the whys and wherefores. So yeah, sure enough, we get nailed for it. They did not. They announced the fine, but we didn't. They didn't fine anybody. That's not. We were on a conference. We had to do a conference call that week. I'll never forget. I was in school and I step out of class and sit on a conference call with the league office on it. They wanted to know why we screwed it up, but it was a screw up. That's all. But it was funny on it. LaRue was a rookie and a great rules guy, and he was telling Tom, and Tom wouldn't back down as a 19-year guy.
Right.
Sometimes you got to pay attention to those young bucks. They know what the hell they're talking about.
Right.
So we didn't know, and that's a black mark on on us for not knowing that. But again, you move on. I survived 19 more years after that.
Right. Well, but it looks like, the crew probably came together after that was better for that, right? And some of those guys you continue to work with.
No, that hurt us. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that we did not rebound from that real well. No one to blame on that. It wasn't Tom's fault as a leader. We had Jim Quirk with us, who was a solid umpire. We had Boris Cheek with us. Mm-hmm. No, I don't think we did. We kind of, it was devastating. It was my first time of that ever happening. And I learned from it, but it just kind of, we did not do that. We did not rebound well. I was kind of new. Right. And that was the first time I ever really screwed something up in an NFL game.
Yep. But then again, like you said, back to basics, stick to that, and you'll do fine.
Basics, yeah. And I don't, is one of the basics. Listen to the rookie once in a while, maybe but we didn't. And right. Shame on us, shame on the other five of us for not knowing what was, what the real rule was on that. But yeah, they were adamant that there was a memo. He quoted the memo that the play clock could be set at whatever. Whenever we missed that. Yeah, it was bad week. Yeah.
Right. Well, on a very positive side, another very admirable part of your career that you're tied to, and I think probably one of the most significant members of the officiating staff that's tied to this is female officials.
Yep.
You worked the first year when Sarah Thomas, obviously the first female official in the National Football League, worked on the same crew with her, crossed the line of scrimmage, and she was the line judge. You were the down judge. I think it was the first year that they did that. You worked her first game, naturally being on the crew, and now Robin De Lorenzo, the third female official in the National Football League, carries your number 134 into perpetuity. Talk a little bit about that experience. What was that like working with a female for the first time at the professional level?
Well, Sarah is truly a pioneer. I mean, there was never anything like that at all. So I got a call when the crews come out in April or May. I got a call from Riveron, and what happened was she was on the officiating development program. So they, the closer they are to getting in the league, they put them on preseason games.
Right.
So the year prior, I had a preseason game in New Orleans, and they put her on the game. What they do with the officiating development program, they had done this in the past. They will bring those guys in, guys and girls in, and they will work a preseason game, but they'll be shadowed by the person that they replace. So Tom Stephen was our line judge, and so Sarah worked the line judge, and Tom was right behind her. not doing anything. She was fine. She did a fine. She had a real good job. Actually, she did a good job on an intentional grounding call. I'll never forget that. We had a close to an intentional grounding. She pointed out that it was an eligible receiver in the area. So
Mhm.
so I worked well with her, and I liked her. She liked me. We were, my family, my father's side of the family is from Mississippi, so we had a lot, to talk about there. And she's got great personality and work really really hard. And so the next year I got a call in May, whenever the cruise came out, and they said, "Listen, we're gonna." It was at River Run. We're gonna put you with Sarah. I said, "I'm honored. That's great. It's fine." So I called her when the cruise officially were announced, and I said, I'll help you out, whatever you want to do. We'll chat in the off season. We didn't have Zoom then, but
Yeah.
we can talk about things. And so she went out her first year and got 100 on the test, on the closed book test. I said, well, you don't need my help on that. So that's one category we don't have to worry about.
Right.
And so I would just, we didn't have, or did we have, I can't remember, do we have the radios then? No, we didn't have the radios then, the O to O
Yeah.
communication. So basically we had to do things, the basic way, match up spots and, and I would talk to her, at the pregame and during the week we would converse. But it was such a rock show, with her. I'll never forget our first preseason game was in Arizona. And, so we did have the radios. That's right. We did have the radios because that's part of the funny part of the story. So it was her first game ever, and so we're walking through the tunnel, and then they had this blow up thing where the Cardinals would walk through, and I said to her, will you go out first? What do you mean? I said, you go out first. This is you, but you're making history here. There's a lot of people out here, especially little girls, that are looking at this as a moment of history. So she said, well, are you sure? I said, yeah, go walk with whoever. Pete Morelli is the referee. Go walk with Pete. You two be the first two out, and we'll just stand behind. So sure enough, she's walking through this thing, and the flash bulbs are going off, and people got their cell phones out and taking a picture. So I get on the radio, and I go, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the debut of Sarah Thomas. She's got people taking pictures all around her, and she turns around and puts her hand behind her back and gives me the middle finger. And I said, that's going to be on Time magazine of some sort.
Right.
You can't do that.
Right.
So
that's funny.
Yeah. So that was it. And we had we had a little couple of bumps in the highway that year, but she was great. She handled it well. And I was the one that told her. I said, walk the sideline before the game. The fans or season ticket holders are out there. I said, you got to take pictures. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Hockey League does it all the time.
Right.
You got to press the flesh a little bit. I always said to fans on the sideline, thank you for coming today. Without you, where are we? I said, Sarah, I'm Ed Camp. I'm nobody,
Right.
You're a rock star, so enjoy the moment. So that was my experience with Sarah, and we're still friends today. I get Christmas cards, and her son's a college baseball player, and I was a baseball coach for a long time. So yeah, we're still friends. I still text her from time to time. Robin DiLorenzo is a great story. Robin's dad and I worked high school ball at times together on the JV levels. I wasn't on his crew, but so for 20 years and maybe more, I worked with the New Jersey Football Officials Association up here in North Jersey, the North chapter, and I would work with their newer officials are called cadets. So I work with the cadet program. I didn't teach them the rules because I didn't know the rules that well, and of course, crossing college and NFL rules and high school rules is crazy.
Right.
But I did work with them on mechanics, and and then when Huddle came around, I was able to use their video to give mechanics lessons and philosophy lessons and stuff. So I forget what year it was. I want to say it was 2003 or 4 or whatever. Her father was the president of the association, and she wanted to be an official, and she ran track at Fordham University, and so she would she came to the class, and right away she stood out, and I said, who's this? Oh, that's my daughter, Robin. I said, oh, okay, hi, nice to meet you. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, she was like enamored with me, and I said, oh, that's great. So she passes the test, and she gets on his crew, and once you pass the test, now you just have to go to regular meetings. You don't have to go to the new guys meeting, the new girls meeting, the cadet class.
Right.
So she would just go to the regular meetings. But the next year I go back, in 2005 to the cadet class, and she's in the back of the room. And I went, "What are you doing?" I said, "You passed the test. You got 5 meetings you have to sign in for. On two Wednesday nights, whatever. No, I want to learn. I want to learn more." Okay, that went on for 13 years or 11 years, whatever it was, and I was thoroughly impressed. One time they were right here in my hometown of Hawthorne. I went down the hill. It takes me 5 minutes to get there, and they were working, and I got on them a little bit. And she called me up later on and goes, "You are just so technical." And I went like, "Hey, it's the only way you're going to get there." And that's the last time she ever said that to me. She goes, like today, she'll say, "Thank you for being technical at Hawthorne High School that night. I really, you have to point out every mistake." And I went, "Yeah, you're probably right. But if I don't, maybe you'll keep making them."
Right.
So when she was going to interview for the league, I told her, you sit around at a table and they have all the supervisors. I said, make sure that they're going to ask you about your family and what games you worked and all that stuff and what are your aspirations and goals and what do you think you can bring to the NFL and blah blah blah. I said, don't leave out the fact that you came to my cadet class. You don't have to use my name, but don't forget that you came to my cadet class for 11 years. Like you didn't have to do that, but you kept drinking my, Kool-Aid and she could recite everything that I told her to do. Now, all I did was what I did every Tuesday night for 20 years.
Right.
She stayed in there for 11 years to do that. So, the articles when she got in the league, she mentioned me a lot. Of course, there aren't many numbers left when you retire. So she asked me if she could have one. I said, not my job. You can have 134. I said, you can't have any of my shirts because I'm double X, but
Right.
so yeah. So she was not a Johnny come lately. She didn't just parachute into the NFL. She actually served her dues to get to college football. And I told her, go apply. I don't know if I could just go apply for college football. Okay, you'll do that. And then she eventually had that great basic work ethic and just moved straight through. I mean, worked the Ohio State Michigan game before she got promoted into the league.
Wow, that's an awesome story, and that's great. I mean, again, another sign of great mentorship by you, and that's I think everybody needs that, whether you're male or female.
You know what? I throw that out, and not everybody takes it. I got a couple guys now that are just they went through the class this year, and they are like, I mean, my phone blows up all the time with video. How did I do here? How did I do it? That's what you need to do. You need to have those. You just can't, as I use the term, I'm not going to wear it out, but you just can't parachute in. You owe the teams, you owe the fans, you owe the players your best opportunity in season and out of season.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Well, I know we're just getting to time. I just want to close out with a couple user submitted questions. So we'll just kind of go through those. First one, any favorite official to work with over your course of your career? Anyone that sticks out as someone you'd want to go back on the field with? Sean
Hockley made the crew as prepared as you could be. He has a financial business. He has 3 children, young children, and I don't know where he finds the energy to do what he does. And I admire him because, as you mentioned before, about balancing off field and on field. Heck, my last 4 years, I was retired from teaching. Okay. And my kids were grown and out of the house. So it's just myself and Lynn. It was easy for me to stay focused and do what I had to do. Sean, again, as I told you about a referee, Sean had to mold the crew. He was a rookie, so he struggled a little bit at being a rookie referee. But I don't know how he did it. I just admire him. Al Riveron was a 100% leader that I would walk down the tunnel with at any game. I was on his crew. I was with him. He and I were with Gerald Austin, and then Al became the referee, and I stayed with him. And I'll never forget our first regular season game in New Orleans. It's like that scene from The Candidate with Robert Redford. We're walking down the tunnel, and he turns to me and goes, "Okay, what do we do now?"
Right.
I said, "Well, I think I told him something about basics, but I said, yeah, all right, come on, let's go. Don't be kidding around. I'm a little nervous out here too,
Right.
Okay. Now what do we do?" So yeah, those two stick out, and of course, I didn't get a chance to work with him because I had an illness in 2014. But Bill Levy was I had him and I went to NFL Europe for 5 years, and I was with him, and he was just, he was just so supportive and a great rules guy, and knew, the important things in football officiating are rules. You got to know the rules. Bill knew the rules
Yeah.
without looking at the rule book. Uh, Positioning and mechanics, you got to be in position, and then you got to know philosophy. What do they want? What do they don't want? And
Right.
that goes.
Yep.
Philosophy is all over the place, but Bill knew all of those three hard, and he still worked. I mean, he's still the referee trainer, and he's been off the field for a few years, but
Right.
no one knew it better than him, and he was so positive. Just got that laid back California, but just so positive. No matter how bad things were, the bullets are flying by, and he just. So those three guys, really helped mold my career. And Hockley was at the end of my career.
Yeah.
Um, that was my last 3 years or 4 years, 3 years or 4 years with Sean. But young guy and balancing act, and Al just a leader, and he led when he was struggling as a referee in the beginning. They all do, and
Yeah.
then just Levy with all three aspects of the game under control and in command of all three of them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely something in the Hockley bloodline there, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
there's a Super
Well,
Bowl
you
or
know
two
what?
in.
If you look at, I won't say, I don't know how many, but a vast number of referees in the game today were probably on Ed's crew. You
Yeah,
got,
that is very true. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Warbird and Adrian Hill and a
yeah,
bunch of those
yeah.
guys. Yeah.
Right, right, right. I mean, yeah, sorry, Adrian Hill. I forgot Adrian Hill. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they knew, that's how selfless they were. I mean, Ed's a rock star of rock stars, but
Right.
he was willing to train and teach. And it's amazing because I remember we would do Zoom calls for rules, in June and July. And I was amazed that he never became a teacher, but lawyers make more money than teachers. So that was probably a good career move by him.
There you go. Yeah, definitely. And can't wait to see Sean work his first Super Bowl. I know that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
Most memorable game for you?
Okay, so I worked the Super Bowl, but it was not. I'm going to tell you that in 2001, which was my second year, of course, 9/11 happened,
Right.
and I was, I taught in New York City, and I had a couple of students whose parents perished in the World Trade Center, and I was brand new at my school. I wasn't a brand new teacher, but I was brand new at my school, and
Mm-hmm.
we had uniforms. We had physical education uniforms. So we were selling them because we had it was a primary day in New York City, and we had voting machines in the gym, and it was a beautiful day. It was like 70 degrees out, not a cloud in the sky. And my teacher partner says to me, "Okay, so we're going to sell uniforms, and we can't use the gym, so you take them out on the playground." So I go out to the playground, and I hear this explosion. Now I'm in Brooklyn. I mean, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
in New York City, but I could see the World Trade Center, and I heard all the custodians on the roof pointing and looking at the building, and I said, "Oh my God!" So it was very moving for me. I had to stay over at my friend's house in Brooklyn. I couldn't get home. She couldn't go over the Brooklyn Bridge and get back to New Jersey, and we were locked out at the time. We had a labor issue with the
Right.
NFL,
Right.
so
Remember that.
we were locked out, and that was on my mind. And of course, I came back over to Jersey, and I said to my wife, I said, I'm applying for Jersey. I'm not going back over to that city anymore. I mean, it's just, it was one of the most moving things. It really changed my life and it affected me at the time. And
Yeah.
here I am in my second year in the NFL. So we eventually settle and we go back to work. And we had a week off because they shut down the season for a week. And so my first game back was the New York Giants at Kansas City. So I get to the airport, and that was an eerie thing. And I was with Jim Quirk. We were on a plane. We fly out to Kansas City, and I get to the stadium on the day of the game, and I'm with the Giants. I always visit with the visiting team before the game, and I walk out with them before the game. So I got to get ahead of them because you can't get through the tunnel with all those guys in there. So I walk out a little bit ahead of the Giants. Now we're in Kansas City, which is one of the loudest outdoor stadiums. And the Giants came out on the field, and all those crazy Chiefs fans in red stood up and gave them a standing ovation. They were not cheering for the Giants. They were cheering for New York City and its resiliency. And to this day, I've told that story like 5 times. I still get chills thinking about it. So last year, when I was working the championship game, in Kansas City. Sean Hockley's sister she moved back to the States. She lived in Indonesia. So every week we would do a little video of her, and she would ask one question about, you're in Kansas City. What about the barbecue? So he was the alternate on that game last year, my last game. And
Right.
goes, come on, we got to do, my sister wants to know, wants to hear from you. You're the only one on my crew that's in this game. I went,
Right.
you're the alternate. And this is, well, he asked me the same question. And I told him, ironically, he says to me, what was your most memorable game? And I said, well, it's not the Super Bowl. It's not any championship games or playoff games or any big games or Monday night that I worked. I said, it was right here in this stadium.
Wow.
And I reiterated that
Yeah.
same story of walking down the tunnel. And somebody took a picture of myself and Jonah walking down the tunnel. I have it. I have to blow it up and make it. It's pretty good. But that whole thing was, everybody's wearing NYPD, and it was all honoring New York City. But all those Kansas City good Midwestern fans standing up and giving the Giants a standing ovation really, brought tears to my eyes, and I was just like, I don't know if I could work the game. But,
yeah, some things just transcend the game.
Yeah, it's
right?
not. That's not. You're right. Transcend. It's not. That was not about football. That was about where we were at the time.
Yeah.
Was,
On the opposite side, what was the funniest thing that's happened to you as an official? Anything stand out there?
I got a lot. Some I can't tell you. Let's see. The funniest thing that ever happened. Okay, so Warren Sapp was not easy to get along with. Okay, especially when they were on offense, because when the Tampa Bay was on offense, he'd have plenty of time on the sideline to stand behind you and just ride the hell out of you.
Right.
So I had a game. I was filling in. Somebody got hurt. It was late in the season, Christmas time, and Tampa Bay was going to win the Super Bowl this year. And John Gruden was the coach, and Sapp was. They were playing the Chicago Bears, and we were playing at the University of Illinois because Soldier Field was being renovated. So I get into Champaign, Illinois, and Tampa Bay is going to win this game, and they're going to get number 1 seed, something close to that. Clinch something. I forget what it was. I think it was week 15 of a 16-game season. So so I'm on the visitor side now. I got to start with Tampa Bay, and I think Chicago was really weak, but they were hanging in there a little bit. So
yeah.
I go through the first half, and Sapp doesn't bother me at all. I'm like, now I go on Chicago's sideline, and Dick Duran was the nicest man to ever coach in the NFL. He never bothered you, okay, ever. And they were just kind of playing it out, But Dick was the nicest guy. I go, I can't believe I just went through an hour and a half of not getting yelled at by Warren Sapp. So I get on the sideline of Chicago, and as a line of scrimmage guy, you're on the goal line. Well, somebody onside kicks to start the second half. I'm sorry. And now there's a skirmish near the Tampa Bay bench. So I go running in, and I'm kind of half jogging in. I mean, it looks like they're just pushing and shoving a little bit, but I got to get there in case somebody does something stupid. And I'm coming a long way. It's on the other sideline, and I'm coming from the goal line. I get to the pile, and I'm pulling guys off, and Sapp gets right in my face and goes, "Where the hell have you been?"
Yeah.
I thought I avoided this for an hour and a half.
Right. And there he was.
Yeah, there he was.
Yeah. I'm sure there were other players like that too. That just characters.
You know right. What, though? People ask me that. Now, when they yell at you like millionaires. And that's because they are. There's so much at stake.
Right.
But when, at the tail end of my career, and this is what I miss, and this is what I hated about my fall this year. They just respected you after a while. Last year when I worked Baltimore, Pittsburgh, both Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh said to me, "What a shame we're losing a good one." And they were tough. Tough on you. John was tough. Mike was 100% class. And I don't mean John is not.
Right.
But they were in earnest, and that was for a playoff spot. They were at the 2-minute warning. John Harbaugh said that to me. Unlike, I will tell you this if we have time, I worked high school ball this year, and I hope everybody that's listening to this hears, you guys put up with an awful lot, and that's why I'm not going back. It's just the fans are tough. The
Yeah.
coaches don't know the rules that well. I mean, there are good coaches, don't get me wrong, but by and large, like I didn't work a big schedule. I would not take any big games from anybody. But so I took not JV games. I worked varsity ball. I had three brand new guys, three brand new rookies, and two solid, good veterans. I worked referee for the first three weeks, three games, and then just because of the makeup of the crew, I felt I should move the line of scrimmage guy, who's a veteran, to referee, and then I would go on the line of scrimmage. So now I'm back on the sideline, and what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, the lack of rules knowledge, the lack of respect. I mean, I got
Yeah.
more respect in the NFL than I got from these. And look,
Wow.
I didn't walk in there and tell them I worked the Super Bowl, okay, or at any level. Some of them knew that when I was much more local to where I live now. But when I would go out to 2 or 3 counties away and they didn't know who I was, just the lack of respect and the way they talk to you, I feel so bad for. And they're the lack of knowledge of the rules. Like in the NFL, they don't know all of them, but they know most of them and they know how to
Right.
use them the right way. I'm shocked. I finally said to a coach one time, it was late in the season, I went, you know. I will come to your school next year and just give you a tutelage on how to work the clock. I am shocked that you guys don't know how to work the clock, how to call
Yeah.
timeouts or when the clock is going to start or stuff. It was amazing to me that went on. And in my last game, I worked Thanksgiving. I was, we switched at halftime in New Jersey. So I was on the sideline with a really nice guy. And then I flipped over on the other side and I saw that guy was yelling about something. And the referee had told him about a rule and he said, "You're wrong on the rule." And we weren't wrong on the rule. What the guy had was an injury timeout and he wanted to take a timeout to think he could get the kid who was injured back in the game. And in high school, you can't do that. And he said, "We've been doing it all year." And the referee told him, "Well, you can't do it." And he just, so I got over on the sideline and he starts yelling at me about something. And I said, "Listen, you pissed on their leg the whole first half. You're not doing that to me. Is that understood?" And he was taken back. Like I got a new name then, Mr. Official. That was what he called me the rest of the game.
There you go.
So and trust me, I did not big time anybody. I worked the game as if it was the Super Bowl. Okay. But for the guys and girls that are listening to this, I feel for you. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a tough gig between parents and lack of support. Okay, we are on an island on our own. Okay, and I don't mean to get that emotional about it, but my wife used to say, I said, "Lynn, this is the worst decision I ever made in my life. I should have just stayed retired and been a supervisor or graded film, but going out on the field, no, thank you. I will not be back." Not.
Yeah, no, it is a problem. It's one of the reasons we're doing this is so that people can see and hear the journey that you can get there. You can get there if you stick with it, and we need more officials in the sport
We
for
do,
sure.
we do, we do. Yeah.
Last question is kind of a funny one. It comes from one of our good buddies, Mark. How's your golf game, and what's it like golfing with Roger Goodell?
Okay, so that's a great story. So my golf game stinks. I don't practice. I just show up. My son says you show up on the first tee with a driver and a pencil. He's exactly right. I need to practice more, but I love playing. My wife plays a lot, and I like playing with her. And I got three or four, 5 good buddies. We get together and play, and we just laugh and have fun. And we don't gamble or anything like that, but it's a lot of fun. It's great exercise, and it is a game for ages. So how did I get in? Roger Goodell. So Al Riveron, unfortunately, lost his son to mental illness, substance abuse a long time ago, a few years ago. So he is active with he formed a foundation called the Tyler James Riveron Foundation in Miami, and what they do is they raise a lot of money for to help families who have kids that have substance abuse. And Al and I worked college ball together, and then of course I worked his first game in the NFL. Actually, he was not supposed to be on the game on my crew at all, but we had a hurricane and we had to play Buffalo at Miami, and they let him stay home because as soon as the game was over, he had to take his family and evacuate. Right. So I worked his first game ever in the NFL. Of course, then I got on a crew with him and Gerald, and then I was on his crew for a couple of years, and we've just remained friends. Period. Even as a supervisor, we're friends. I got it. I know what it is. We already talked about that.
Right.
So he's going to have this golf tournament at Miami Beach Country Club down in Miami. Jackie Gleason's picture is on in the hallway. And he says, calls me up. I signed up for it. My son, Matt, is a good player. And I said, I'm bringing Matt. So, I said, I don't care what you want me to play with. So he calls me up on Wednesday. The tournament's going to be on a Friday. He calls me up at school. I'm in school. He says, hey, how you doing? I'm like, good. I need a favor. What's your favor? And he said, I need you to play with the redhead. I said, who's the redhead? He said, I need you to play with Roger Goodell. I said, Al, my game, I'm going to shoot 100, Matt can play. He says, no. I don't trust some of these guys that are coming. Some of them will open their big mouth and they'll say something stupid. I know you can handle this. I said, I can't handle this. I have sweaty palms already. I'm nervous.
Right.
He says, and he doesn't take no for an answer. So I said, okay. I hang up the phone. I'm going to play with Roger. Roger Goodell is going to be in my foursome. It's a scramble. So I call up my son. I went, Matt, you're not going to believe this. You know who's in our foursome? Steve Zimmer, who's an NFL field judge, who's a pretty good golfer. And you're going to drive the ball 300 yards every time, please. And I said, and Roger Goodell. He went, what? I said, yeah. How did you get involved with that? I said, well, Uncle Alberto, decided that I'm the only one that can trust without opening my big mouth. So I said, that's what we're going to do. So we get to the golf course on Friday. We fly down and we get to the golf course and all the supervisors are there. It's, kiss up time. And there's a few executives, from the league office there.
Right.
And I show up and I look at the, the pairings board, and there I am, and they're all going to me like, how did you get, and these are the guys that Al didn't want to be with the commissioner. They're going, how did you get to be with the commissioner? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's not my game. Matt can hit the ball a mile, and so can Zimmer. We're in good shape here. So, David Gardy, who's like vice president of operations, walks over to me on the putting green and goes, what does your son do? And what's his name? So he comes over and here comes Roger, and nicest guy in the world. People don't understand what a regular guy he is. At these tournaments, he's taking pictures, smoking cigars, drinking a Heineken. He's a good guy that way. Most powerful man probably in sports. People boo him and despise, but down to earth as you could possibly be. Absolutely down to earth, just a regular guy. So we go out and we're playing a scramble, and my son's hitting the ball a mile, and Steve Zimmer's got a short game with great hands, and Goodell can hit a 3-wood about 250 straight as an arrow.
Wow.
And that was just me. So we go like first 5 holes, we're 5 under in the scramble. Okay. We get to the 6th hole and we want to go six under. We have about a 30-foot birdie putt. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they're telling me, these guys are telling me on the putting green, oh, you can curse and swear with Goodell. He does that all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not taking that bait. I'm going to be,
Right.
You call him commissioner, I don't call him Roger. If you call him commissioner and there's a certain formality there, he's got a bodyguard,
Right.
But I'm not dropping any F-bombs on him. Okay. I'm not saying anything.
Right.
So we get to the 6th hole and we're 5 under, and we have a 30-foot birdie putt. And I'm like trying to find my putter or something. So I'm usually the first one to go to give them a read. So those 3 missed the birdie putt, and I stand over it and I knock it in. I'm the 4th guy to go. And he goes, Goodell comes up to me, gives me a fist pound and goes, that was a clutch putt. The pressure was on you. I said, Commissioner, let me tell you something. Pressure was when I showed up today and I saw my fucking name up there next to yours on this foursome. That was pressure. You might have to edit that out. But...
Right. No, that's good. That's a great story.
Okay, good. There you go.
That's awesome. Well, on that note, Ed, this has been outstanding. I really appreciate you taking the time. I mean, so many of us, I for sure have been following your career. You've been a great role model to many officials, and we really appreciate it. It was great to see you go out on top at the end of last year in the AFC Championship game, and then the Super Bowl as an alternate. Wish you the best in retirement, and hope to have you back sometime, and we can talk about what's going on.
We'll talk a little football maybe next time, a little, instructional football. Thank you very much. Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you. And to you as well. Take care.